Hi, and welcome to our meditation today. Today is the first part in a three-part series on gratefulness. And I am astonished, although the more I thought about it, the more it made sense, that very early in the lecture, Kriya says, I could also call this the art of skillful living. And just think about that for a minute. Of all the skills, all the practices that would create skillful living, that would create the results that perhaps you and I are most longing for in our hearts and minds and lives, is the practice of gratefulness. So I am so glad that you're here. He lays a lot of groundwork in today's lecture. A lot about what happens when we're not grateful and how we can get on the wrong path, but how cultivating that practice, the practice of gratitude, actually physically, concretely changes our realities. Changes our realities. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Well, welcome in. We're so glad that you're here, and we hope you enjoy.
Shalom, my dear Father, and Shanti, all you beloved. I would like to talk to you today about gratefulness. I could really say the art of skillful living. The art of skillful living is to understand how to live. That's all, just how to live. You are quite an artist. Superb, it moved my soul. Skillful living is to be grateful for life, for people, for books, for flowers, for disciples, for enemies. We learn more from enemies than we learn from anyone. We listen to our friends, but we should listen to our enemies. And only if we are grateful for them will the enemy within dissolve away and the enemy external disappear to find another enemy. Life is about attunement. This very short 3-hour seminar really could be summed up in one sentence. So I'll say it and you can all go home. It's about you. That's what life is about. It's so hard to communicate that concept. Life is about you. Why is this hard? It's hard because we have been beaten down and pushed down and suppressed, thinking we're not the important thing. Someone else is the important thing. We're not the important thing. Other thing is the important thing. This isn't the important thing. Tomorrow's the important thing. This is not the important moment. Yesterday was the important moment. My beloved, it's about you. And respectfully, we're all closed off. And we're all saying, I've already done it in my head. But it's not about doing it in your head. It's about bringing your inner life out to do what you should have done a long time ago, what I should have done a long time ago. The art of gratefulness is opening up to see those things that you ought to be grateful for. And people will say, there's nothing to be grateful for. And that's why you have nothing to be grateful for. You can't see it. There's two levels, really. There's two levels. The first level is what you can see. It's maybe 3% of your life, maybe 8%. It's a very itty-bitty thing. And the whole rest of life is being blocked out. The channel of the goodness of life must flow into you. That's what the Chandra chakra, that's what the moon center, that's what the mouth of God is all about. It needs to be opened, so that all the goodness that is life, all the beauty that is in life, all the love in life, all the forgiveness that is in life can flow into us and heal us. But we got it closed. And we're waiting for the God or the Guru or Lord or lineage or a Savior or a Messiah to come and open it. I say it and I say truth. He has already arrived. It is for us to unfold like the lotus blossom and list this mouth of God to open, so that that by which we are fed can feed us. But until we open that channel, nothing can come through. And so if we're grateful for one itty bitty thing, the channel opens a little more. And with that opening, the eyes open. Or is it done this way? I can never remember how on the thin blue line they did it. But anyway, the whole idea is to open the channel. As the channel opens, we can see two things that we're grateful for. And pretty soon our tunnel vision broadens and broadens. And all of a sudden we see many, many, many wondrous things for which we are and can be grateful for. But there's a second level. We see life, the infinity of life, the infinities of things, of thoughts, of ideas, of people, of nobilities, of concepts, of goodness that is there for us to taste. But we have to see it. And the only way we can see it is by opening our eye. The only way we can open our eye is by opening our heart. The only way we can open our heart truly in this stage of your evolution is to be grateful for what you have. Now I'm aware that there's many things that this body wants, and probably more things that this mind wants, and a couple of things that this personality wants. But how does the crazy song emphasize the positive or something like that? We have to look not what we don't have, not to look at the negative, which is what people do, and they go, oh, poor me, oh, 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 until they're so closed down they can't see what they need to see themselves. But rather, yeah, I'm beaten down. But maybe I need to dust myself off. Maybe you need to dust yourself off. Maybe we need to work at already accomplishing. You remember I told you the story? I don't know how many of you remember, but let me make it short. In the early days of Christianity, in this lifetime, I'm sorry. In the 40s and 50s, all right? The Catholic Church, you couldn't go to communion unless you had literal Mass, as opposed to how they have it today. And it was getting close to Easter, and it was a big flood of people. And Father Highball called my guru and said, I'm in trouble. I need some help. I need you to hear confession so these people can, have this sacred thing called the Eucharist. And Shelley says, I'm not a Catholic priest. And he says, I know that just by the way you talk. He said, but you are a priest. He says, of course I'm a priest. You come. So he came and he got into the booth number 3 and started talking. The women started confessing their sins and said, and Father, what should I do? And he intentionally was remained silent, as I told some of you. And finally she got nervous. She says, well, 3 Hail Marys? He remained silent and intentionally beginning to giggle. And she says, 3 Hail Marys, 4 Our Fathers? And he just remained silent. She got it. I think she got it up to 15 and 15, And finally, in this deep voice, he says, you think that will do it? He never told me what the sin was because it was a confessional, but it was a Lulu. I would have liked to heard. And then she started crying and weeping and wailing, and she says, but Father, I want Jesus to forgive me. Okay? Hey, he said, hey, like that, California person. Hey, he's already forgiven you. Have you forgiven yourself? And boy, the line got closer and larger Easter time, and the word passed, don't go to booth 3. Don't go to confessional 3. But this thing that we ought to be grateful for, but most of us are not, is called life with a capital E. It is what I call in my theology and my philosophy the garden of God. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely everything that you can conceive of or ever will conceive of, and even those things you cannot conceive of, are there. And what are most of us doing? We're sitting on the dung pile, this compost pile, be polite. Sitting there and say, I think this world stinks. And the answer is, get up off the dung pile, get off of, the compost pile, go out to the rose garden, go out to the orchard tree, go out to the flower, go out to the vegetable garden, go out and nibble on the cherries, But we're waiting for, again, forgive me, for God, Guru, Lord, lineage, somebody to come and move us. And the thing about the only thing that's ever going to move us is a lightning bolt, Why do we keep thinking that someone else ought to do it? We have to do it ourselves. But the way we do it is to look and to see what we can see that we're grateful for, and to keep expanding that. And as I repeat, because it's important, as we expand it and expand it and expand it, our horizon of awareness expands out, and we begin to see all the things that we do have, sometimes all the things we did have, but more importantly, all the things that we can have. We see life, the garden of God, in which everything there. All we got to get up and move to another part of the garden. And this is done by the awareness that this is the garden of God. You are the magic genie lamp that they talk about in the Arabian Nights. You get your wish. Yes, Master. How might I serve thee? The secret of being grateful is to recognize a vital factor. And I think that vital factor, is to recognize that there's theory and that there's practice. And too many of us simply get up into our head. Well, my children, when you promulgate your esoteric cogitations, superficial or sentimentality observations, beware of platitudious ponderosities, I am thinking. And Virgos like me, we love it. We just love it. But what does that do, or what does that have to do with living? Not a darn thing. It's about living. It's not about data. It's about living. It's not about all the mistakes we've made in the past, all the errors we made in this day, all the things we wish can correct. We can, by changing our attitude and our thinking patterns now. And the rest of us spend the rest of our life thinking, the apprehension of tomorrow. Tomorrow is but an apprehensive dream. Yesterday is but a nightmare, forgive me. It is here and now that it's happening. It's here and now that the future can be changed. And believe it or not, I tell you truly that the past can be changed and ought to be changed. It's here and now where you are for you. If you cannot find your happiness here, if you cannot find your beauty here, if you cannot find wisdom here, how are you going to share it with your brothers and sisters? How are you going to help anyone if you don't have that by which you're trying to help? It's not magic. It's not religion. It's spiritual psychology. You can only give what you have. But I tell you with love, with not being angry at any organizations, that's plural, is they have beaten all of us down much more than they should. And we have to come back to recognize that fundamental yogic principle, the fundamental basic mystical principle, that fundamental Kabbalistic principle, as I keep telling you. You are the center of your universe. Ba-dum. The axis of the world. It is you. This is Mount Meru. This is Mount Olympus. This is the holy mountain. Give it whatever name you want. And the axis of the world is your spinal column that you have collected all the memory tracks. Whether it goes back 3 minutes or 3 billion lifetimes isn't important. Your past is there, locked within you. Negativity, regret, guilt, And the answer, you are not your memory track, but you're functioning from your memory track. Your Atma, Purusha, your Ein Sof Ar, the primordial, feminine, unformed potentiality for anything and everything. All you have to do is think it and hold that thought, and that you will become. Every dream you dream will come to pass. In this world, in the next world, in the afterworld, in the dream world, in the meditative state, in a daydreaming state. But the whole idea is to take all of that Virgonian data that I've been giving you for 30 years, or 40, or 50, or 60, and transmute it into practice, to do something with it. Unless you're a Virgo, you play with it. Unless you're a religionist and you titillate your senses with it. Take it and apply it to your life. How, you have to say to yourself, how can I be happy? Or for some of you, I'm glad to say, you need to say, how can I become happier? It's really yoga, mysticism, my philosophy of life is not from hell to heaven. It's not from pain to pleasure. It's from goodness to greater goodness, from beauty to greater beauty, from wisdom to greater wisdom, from me to essence, if you'll permit the plural. What you do affects me, and I guarantee you what I do affects you. So we have a responsibility to ourselves, for ourselves, to be happy. And I guarantee you, if you're not happy, if you cannot be grateful for the small gifts, and they may be small, the small gifts of life that you yourself have given yourself, maybe you ought to do something with you. Rather than saying, well, it's the Guru's fault, it's God's fault, it's the devil's fault, it's somebody's fault. But surely it can't possibly be my fault. It's your fault. It's hard. But you hear what I'm trying to relate to you. It is your life. And as soon as you say, Kriyananda won't make me happy, unscrew the top of your head, throw them away. Screw it back on. As soon as you say, well, that theology or that philosophy from that person or that group makes me unhappy, unscrew your head and take it out. Now, I did this very personal one day when I sat there and I realized after 20 years, 2 decades of anguish and pain, that God was causing me too much pain and He wasn't worth it. Truly, I unscrewed the top of my head and threw him out, put it on real fast. For the first time in 20 years, I was happy. Then I realized, which I hope you realize, that wasn't God. That was my shadow God. That was Kriyananda's little God. It was a bad piece of karma hung over from my childhood or earlier lifetime experiences. Since then, being very personal to you this day, I've climbed that ladder, right up with Jacob, right to the top. He's not angry. He's not white. He's not English. And it's not a he. It's a state of consciousness, which oftentimes insults people. I say it. It's not a he, it's not a she, it's an it. Put a he to it, put a she to it, and you're already emotionally in trouble. It's an it. It's life. It's the garden. Your garden. You have a right to it. You earned it. But you're sitting, as best I can say, on the dung heap and saying, well, I think this world stinks, in one way or the other. And the answer is use the fertilizer to grow something worthwhile. Or move from it and see what is meaningful to you. And with all the strength you can, draw it into yourself. And as you draw it into yourself, and you become strong in that thing, it will radiate out from you, and without effort, it will flow out to all that are near you, all that enter your aura. But most of all, you will be happy. And then you say, well, how can I be happy when, all the other people are unhappy, And the answer is, don't go down to where they're at. Draw them up to where you are. How? by example, by being grateful, even for your enemy. He'll teach you a great deal, or for some of you, they will teach you a great deal. The need to unify the knowledge and the data together as an action, a Kriya, to begin to improve your life. Now, you can do it two ways. You can go out and say, what's the most important thing I ought to be grateful for, whether I have it or not, and then share it. Help people to obtain it. Help them to get it. As it flows out of you to them, it has to flow through you. As you reach out to help them, it flows back. They are the mirrors, and we strengthen each other. There's not two of us in this room. There's only one of us. And I tell you, more mystically true than you might realize for a couple of lifetimes. Only you are existing in this room at this moment. And I know you'll say that's absolutely foolishness. There is only your consciousness. I'm here. You have drawn me here with your consciousness. If you did not draw me here, I would be sitting on the beach and swimming in the ocean and enjoying 85-degree weather. And I am glad that you have drawn me here, my beloved, truly. Secondly, to be grateful is to understand, I think, what is called the unity of existence. This has been heavily distorted. But the unity of existence is not a monotheism. Unity of existence is not, this theology is right and all others are wrong. The unity of existence is an understanding of the difference that there seems to be an inner world and there seems to be an outer world. But the outer world, my beloved, I tell you true, is what you have created in the past. Neither good nor bad, but you have created it. We call it the law of karma, the law of causation. I can say it more softly. That which you see in the outer world first came from within you. I would not be here if you had not drawn me here. I don't know if you can understand that. And in some mystical sense, less mystical, you would not be here if I had not drawn you here. And as the great Kabbalistic master says, is the mother beholding the father, or is the father beholding the mother? Who is looking at who? Am I looking at you, or are you looking at me? And I've already told you. You're looking at me. You are here and here alone. All this other is a figment of your imagination, they would say, but I think it's a bad way of saying it. We are creations of your mind. How you see me, it doesn't matter how I am. How you see me, I am for you. How I see you is how not you are, but how I see you, how I perceive you. I see a lot of you as happy. I am hoping this is so. So the idea is to recognize that the two worlds are not side by side, but rather one on top of the other. You are a creative force descending energies down to create this universe, so-called awakened state of consciousness. If you don't like it, change it. But don't go so much out to try to change those around you, but rather try to change that which is within you. It's the story I like to tell because it's a true story of the husband and wife that had been fighting for 20-some years. I thought any day now one's going to, forgive the word, kill the other. Just unbelievable. Just absolutely unbelievable. And one day she says, I can't stand it. I'm really going to do damage to his body, you know. What do I do? And basically I said, what we do primarily is both of us be peaceful and both of us not allow him to fight with. He fight with you, don't respond. Oh, that's terrible. No, respond. No, don't respond. And basically what happened, he turned around, he unfolded his energies, he started fighting with her, and she remained silent. He fought harder and harder and harder, never fought, and she bit her lip and said nothing but smiled and said, yes, dear, you're right. That evening he said, I'm leaving you, you're no fun to be with. It's a true story. The secret primarily is not to respond to the negative. Now, if we put that in cosmic lessons, it simply says, Stop thinking your universe is negative. Stop thinking that you're negative. If you think you are, pick up a positive thought. Look around you and see what is there in your life that you can be grateful. Not ought to be, but can be grateful. And vibrate that one image by sound or by imagery or however you want to do it, by ritual. And just keep regenerating it. And all of a sudden you realize there's not two worlds. There's you, and there's this so-called external universe within you. Okay? Or as someone said to me not too long ago, there's absolutely nothing, excuse me, there's absolutely nothing in this world worthwhile. There's no value there. And I think he was expecting me to say, oh, but there is. It's this, whatever this is. Or it's that, whatever that is. And I said, you're probably right. Why don't you put something that you value in this world? Now, we have two problems. As a whole, we're not grateful. As a whole, we're not grateful. I could say we're not grateful enough, we're not grateful with enough intensity, or we're not grateful with enough duration, or we're not grateful enough with enough cyclical patterning. We're just not grateful. We're focused because of negative theology, negative psychology, negative philosophy, and a lot of other schools of thought, to focus on what's wrong. Okay? I came and I tried to get a hotel room, and there's a big convention going. And I had a couple of days in this hotel and a couple of days in this other hotel. I went to the other hotel, and my only request was that I would be high up so it wouldn't be noisy, because they don't have courtyards in in big cities, as I understand it. So I asked for high up, but they had given the high up rooms away, so they gave me a double upgrade, if you know what that means. And I walked in the room and I said, wow, this should happen more frequently. I am grateful for this, Lord, if you permit my humor. I am grateful, a nice bowl of fresh fruit, little teeny flowers, San Pellegrino free, as opposed to $8 a bottle for a little teeny bottle. Really, really nice. I really liked it. So I called downstairs. And I said, I really, really, really appreciate it. I'm really grateful for the skill in the decorating, the art, everything. I tried to compliment everything, and the woman almost fainted. I said, I know what you hear when someone picks up the phone for you. Assistant, what do you call it, manager or whatever it is of the hotel, the assistant gets all the hell. I said, I know when your phone rings you figure someone's hollering. The only time you probably pick it up or you brace yourself, because we're always telling you what you're doing wrong, never telling you what you're doing right. And she was so grateful, she sent me up a large bottle of champagne. Isn't life humorous? Now, what do I do with this bottle of champagne? Send it back down and say, I don't drink? How dare you, right? No, you pass it on to someone. Someone had opened the door for you. You opened the door genuinely, okay? You open the door and they send something through. A bottle of champagne. You don't want it, is what I'm trying to say. You don't drink it. You don't taste it. Whatever it is, it isn't compatible to your personality. Either change your personality and drink it, or pass it on. And you open the door again, and another thing comes through. I remember in my youth, and that's a long time ago, I was out of work for 6 months, and I tell you, and I tell you too, there is nothing more frustrating to a man, I think, than not to being able to get a job, not being able to earn a livelihood. In my opinion, it was devastating. And one day I sat down after 5.5 months of this, and I said, Kriyananda, there's something wrong. You're doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? And then it hit me like a lightning bolt. What I was doing wrong is I was looking for a particular research job in chemistry. And the answer is, my stomach doesn't care whether it's research chemistry or something else. It feeds me. I'm hungry. So I said, maybe I should just go out to get a job. So I went out and said, I'd like any job These are my qualifications. I don't care what it is. He said, I have this. I said, I'll take it. He said, I haven't even told you. I'll take it. Okay? Why? Because once a door opens up, there's always two doors behind that. Go through left or right. That door opens up. There's three doors behind it. One door of opportunity leads another. And most of us say, I don't like that door. I want to be a research chemist. Okay? It's ridiculous. You're limiting yourself. Know what is vital. And I'm using a concrete terminology. Feed the tum-tum. Okay? You go through that door. There was two doors. I went through the second door. And let me tell you, that opened up the three doors. I went to the next door. And I had the greatest, wonderful job in the world that I ever had in the term of the industry of working for someone. All right? So we have to say, we have to be careful and be grateful for doors. That's what I'm really trying to say. And I can remember back in the 40s, Shelley saying, now, you know, Kriyananda, you're part of the living lineage, and you recognize that the lineage will help you. They will show you doors. They won't open doors for you. They'll always show you two doors. And then he looked at me and smiled, and he said, now you realize they're not going to, quote, they're not going to put twinkling Christmas tree lights on the white door, on the right door. They would be taking away your free will. I said, I like blinking Christmas tree lights. And we giggled together, and he said, I do too, but you know, it doesn't work that way. They'll show you the door. You have to push through. And if you want, this is important, Kriyanandaji, you must know ahead of time what you want, because when that door opens, it'll only open for a short period of time. It's a stargate of karmic conditions. Opens and closes. So when it opens, step through rapidly. If not, it'll close and you bump your nose. Maybe even get a nosebleed. So we have to recognize in life two things. One, that when we think we have a problem, rather than bitch and moan and all of that which we do, accentuate the negative, sit down. Be quiet. Sort of center ourselves and think, at this moment, what am I truly grateful for? That I can sit, that I have legs to sit. Not everybody has legs. Okay? Sounds silly, I know, but just be grateful for what is grateful for you. All right? And what will happen is that gratefulness, it'll open a channel. The horizon of awareness will open a little bit, and you'll see in front of you a number of doors, usually one or two, and then rapidly move through. Saying the same thing in different language, center yourself and let go of the problem. That's what's psychologically happening. Now that you let go of the problem emotionally, you can see the problem much more clearly, and therefore make much wiser decisions as whether to take action or not to take action, how to take action, when to take action. Our problem is one, we tend to try to solve the problem when we're emotional, and that simply leads us to more problems. The opposite of gratefulness is boredom. And I remember Shelley's words very clear. Yes, women get bored very easily, men get bored very easily, and they say, I think I'll get engaged. That'll do it. And so they get engaged for a while. They are no longer bored. Then they say they're bored, and they say, well, I think I'll get married. And for quite a while, they're not bored, but they wish they were. And and then from that they're bored again, and they say, I think I'll have a baby. That'll be exciting. Oh, that's exciting. Until you die, I am thinking. So be careful of making decisions when you're emotional, when you're bored, when you're angry, when you're upset. Try back to think. At this moment, you have to say to yourself, what is this thing at this moment that I am truly grateful for? Don't question how big or how little. Don't play the game of size, but rather, what am I grateful for at this moment? And try to visualize it, try to see it, try to, almost as you inhale, try to inhale that symbol, that fragrance, that action, that word, whatever it may be, into your being. And with each exhalation, sort of feel it just saturating each cell of your being, each petal of your mind. Your horizon awareness opens up more. Now rather than 2 doors, you have 5 doors. And it's unfortunate than not, there's no name tags, this goes to hell, this goes to heaven, this goes to wealth, this goes to sex. I wish it did that. I'd be first in line. It doesn't do that. These are the doors. And you have to, forgive me, you have to either sense your intuition, clairsentience, you have to sense which door should I go through, which one feels right to me at this moment. Now, once you go through that door and it closes, you can never back up. You're all aware of this. But don't be fearful, even if you don't like it, like I didn't like the job that I took. Within a few months, there was another door that opened up, and I stepped through that, and it was pretty good. And after that, there was another door, and that was really, really nice. So within about a year's time, my tummy was full, and I went back to where I thought I ought to be, and then I realized this is boring, and this has no real value to human beings. So I did a funny thing. I decided to become a Swami full-time. It's never been boring since then. No time to meditate. To tell you about the time I went to a chiropractor to get an adjustment, I was quite young, and he worked on me. He said, he kept saying, my God, my God, my God. And finally, when this treatment's over and I sat up on the edge of the table, he says, I have a suggestion. You ought to take up yoga. I didn't have the courage to tell him. That's what got me in this tension formation. Whee! I'm thinking like that. Now, why is gratefulness such an important quality to become happy, to become wise, to become successful here and now, and therefore to transfer that to the future as well as to the past? It is because, remember Plato and the pre-Socratics 2,500 years ago? They said, he said, all learning is but a remembering. Now that's a pretty profound metaphysical statement. All learning is but a memory, but remembering. Now if I put it in my own terms, it's very Indian, very Shelley-ji, if you permit me. We have all these experiences. Again, it doesn't matter whether you say 10 years, 20 years, 30 years back, or 3,000 years back, 300 lifetimes. It really doesn't matter. There is a past. And all that past, however short or long it is, there's a memory track. That memory track is in you. And what is happening is that these memory tracks, some of them are highly emotional. They're hooked to highly emotional elements. And so as we walk through this life, what we're really doing is just responding to the memory tracks. We're not really thinking. We're not really planning ahead. We're not really escaping the past. We're simply responding to the memory tracks and allowing them to relive their being, their sensation within us. They're leeches, which unfortunately is controlling us. We're not controlling them. I'll say it again. You as spirit are not your memory track. Spirit has a memory track, but it is not the memory track. You are you, and you have a history, but your history is not you. The problem for all of us is we are living our life as though we were the memory track. And Shelley says it very beautifully, I think. The ghosts of the past want to live again. Don't they, Kriya and Andy? Which means, some ghost was resurrecting. If I say the thoughts of the past, the memories of the past want to resurrect themselves, come up and relive, habit, samskara, saying the same thing. But I like this idea rather than say, well, there's a samskara, there's a thought from the past coming back up. It's quite different connotational-wise than saying the ghosts of the past want to live again. You understand? There's an implication there that, maybe they're not as friendly as these past thoughts as I thought they were. Maybe it's time to evoke them or send them off on their way. Go thee, depart from hence thee came. Something like that. I did that right, didn't I? Yes, I did. Banish them, banish them. And stop. Go back to this one simple process of gratefulness. And as you hold more and more to that feeling of gratefulness, you're doing two things. One, you're attuning to the positive memories than the negative memories. And so you will draw up, and the angels of the past will want to live again and will live again, if you permit me. Okay? Secondly, it's balancing you so that you can say, well, really, I don't want the ghosts of the past to live again, and I don't want the angels of the past to live again. I really want me to have the experience that is free of the past, to remove myself from my history so that I might taste something that I haven't tasted before, or see something I haven't seen before, or realize something I haven't realized before, or love as I have never loved before. Like that. And it's a movement from happiness to greater happiness, from life to greater life. But it's not simply repeating the same old boredom, if you permit me, the same old cycle. Now, at one time that cycle may have been meaningful, but after 600 or 800,000 repetitions of that cycle, it gets boring. And as it gets boring, you get bored. As you get bored, you do reckless things that get you back into, in my opinion, more trouble, more confinement. Now, in Hindu thought, this idea of this circle called samsara, they feel it is lifetime after lifetime. You know, you're a shoemaker, you come back as a shoemaker, you come back as a shoemaker. Maybe you come back as a good shoemaker, but you're a shoemaker. In yogic terms, that's not what it's about. The samsara is a cycle of your thinking pattern, your emoting pattern. Same thing over and over again. Okay, now let's see, what do I want? I want sex, that's what I want. Next lifetime, what do I want? What do I want? I want money, that's what I want. Next life, I want wisdom, you know. And whether you consider it a cycle of incarnation after incarnation, Hinduistically, or whether you think of it as a thought in your thoughts, which is how the yogi thinks and how I suggest you think, is just watch your thoughts flow, even for one day. And, you know, I don't know about you, but I know about me. We go through many cycles of thoughts of wanting, needing, thinking, aspiring to, and it just keeps repeating itself. At one time it was meaningful, but we're rowing the boat with one hand. How about that? A rowboat with one hand. We're just going in a circle thinking the motion is getting us somewhere. It's getting us somewhere, but it's getting us nowhere. It's getting us somewhere around the circle. But the idea is to get to that shore or get to this shore so we can move on with our lives, so using a modern term. So I hope that that might be helpful. You are a series of emotional banks that have emotional energy. You have a series of banks that are data banks, which are unfortunately contaminated with the emotion, and the emotion is contaminated with the data. But those two together, plus your new experience, an experience that is not a result of the pressure of your memory tracks, produces realization, freedom, moksha, kavalya, the attainment of the crown. The vestments of honor are yours to put upon you, the ancient Kabbalist would say. Who among us wear the vestment of honor? Let us emulate that being, which is something in your head. It's not something outside you. It's in your head. It's the crown chakra. It's the Ajna chakra. And what we're trying to do is get away from the past, and therefore to get away from the potential future. If in the past all it was, oh, cry, 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 ooh, cry, 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 ooh, cry, cry, sad, sad, sad. What do you think the future's going to be? Surprise, cry, cry, cry. And everybody says, oh, surprise, I don't understand this. It's just like having a baby, you know. If you had one, you understand what I'm saying. And it gets old enough to speak and you're all happy. It is no longer it and it. It's a she or he, and it can speak. And what's the first mantra it speaks? No. No. It's called japa, repetition. No. And then the mother looks at the father, and father looks at the mother and says, I wonder where you learned that from. That's all he hears, you know. No, you know, controlling, which is needed, obviously. But the amazement, oh, it's saying no, I can't understand where you learned that. I think as you slowly look at your life and begin to see what you can be grateful for, and as I said, draw it into you, draw closer to it, use it as a torch to lead in your head, to lead to the next more grateful thought and object, internal or external. You will relatively rapidly come to a state of santosha, a state of contentment. Not passivity, not recklessness, not a stupor, but simply santosha, contentment. Gratefulness and contentment produces happiness. As we become more grateful, we become more content. As we become more content, our mind can become more focused. Kriya Siddhi. As we begin to visualize, we begin to see, I can visualize anything now because I'm not attached to, I am detached from all the past. Now it doesn't mean the past is bad. It just means the past should be a stepping stone to the next step. And so if you put one foot on the stair, look at this, look at this wonderful step. Oh, how marvelous this step is. I think I will sit here and admire this step for ages and ages. You're never going to get to the next step. The idea is to get up, get on the floor and move on. The same way, your thinking patterns of the past are not bad, nor mine. They're simply a step to the next step of wisdom, to happiness, to enlightenment. What is life about? Only you can answer that for you. The sages have given wonderful answers. But their answers are meaningless if they are meaningless to you. The mystics say, it's not about happiness, as wonderful as happiness is. It's not about love, as beautiful as love is. And all these wonderful, it's not about wisdom, as wonderful as that is. It's about thinking a new thought. Now, decades ago, when I was young and had a lot of energy, I used to tell my disciples and try to encourage them to study comparative religions, comparative philosophy, comparative psychology, comparative languages, comparative cultures, comparative anything, comparative families, anything. Because I was hoping that in so doing, they would come up with a new thought from a new culture. Okay? I hate to give you the statistics on how many did or how many didn't, but I tell you that it's frightening how many didn't listen to that great piece of wisdom from my teacher. So I have to change it and say, what is it all about? It's all about you thinking yourself a new thought, rather than that new thought coming to you from the outside, which is highly valuable. But the next step, like step by step, pas on pas, step by step, for you, inside you, to think a thought, not from the external world, but from the internal world. And that step, that new thought, is what we call upa-kavalya, upa-samadhi, upa-moksha. Little teeny freedom, little teeny liberation. But once you think a new thought, it's like having just a little bit of love. You know it's not enough. And without effort, you don't walk up to the beloved and say, no, no, no. Isn't it so? You open your arms to beauty. I'm hoping. Some of you don't, but I'm hoping. It's the name of the game. To recognize that once you, in your own mind, come up with a new thought, you do recognize what all the great mystics have said. You are omniscient. Now, in religious terms, they think that this all-knowingness means that at an instant of time, pow, it all happens at one time. I would think that that would be slightly disorientating. It's not what the mystic, it's what the religious term means, and they give it to God alone. But you, as a spark from that divine flame or a drop from the infinite ocean of life, are omniscient. The Prushringer, not your body, not your mind, not your personality, not your memory track, but you, the essence, the quintessence of what you are. All right? And what we're trying to do, once we have this one thought, a new thought that we ourselves have generated from within ourselves, we realize, therefore, we can think any thought, infinite number of thoughts. And so we are omniscient, but not omniscient that it all happens at one moment, one instantaneous moment, but rather that any thought you wish, you can understand the entirety of all, piecemeal, at one moment, this moment, refocus on this moment, refocus on this moment. And for us, that's valuable. And the whole idea of Kabbalistic thought, the whole idea of Christian mysticism, the whole idea of Sufi, the whole idea of the American Indian tradition, of the shaman, the whole idea of yoga, the whole idea is this: we need a periodic table of consciousness. And there is one. It is a periodic table of consciousness is a pattern, like the tree of life, like Indra's lightning bolt, if you want to keep it in Eastern terms. It shows us the patterns, the infinite patterns that are there, and it shows us 1 or 2 or 3 or 32 patterns that are primary but infinite. So we can see, aha, anything I want to know, I can know. Anything I wish to understand, I can understand. Now that's important. Why? Because we have in this world, as I told you decades ago, my fear, my absolute fear, was what was called a mega mind. One mind through the United States, one mind through the world, where one television program or one set of data transference would go out and everybody would start thinking the same thing. Unfortunately, I should have said the danger was wherever there is that data bank, there will be another data bank. And so now there are two massive data banks being aimed at you. You're more attuned to the one than the other. But megamania comes with a mega mind. I'll say it again. The problem with not being grateful is you become part of the herd. You become part of the group karma. And you go where they want to go rather than where you ought to go. We're all the same, and yet we're all different because we're not on the same color realm. We're not on the same time realm, I'm sorry. We're different. We're all dreaming the same dream, but at a different time. And when you dream it, it's important. Where the herd is at, hopefully you're not at. Negative group karma is always negative karma in terms of where an individual that is not part of the group. It goes down and down and down. It's called, in psychological terms, quote, mass hysteria, quote, unquote, quote, madness of the crowd, unquote. And there's wonderful books that you should all read, one of them having that title. I just call it, whoops. That's what I call it, whoops. How do we break with this mass karma? You know, 2 people, 3 people, 12 people do this, and tens of thousands of people are dying, you know, and will die. We have to lift from the darkness, the druggery, the drunkenness, the dum-nunhood, up to whatever you want to call it, to a positive viewpoint, to be grateful. Now, you know, I have a problem in Hawaii. I know you don't believe me, but I have a problem there. There's no culture. You know, and up to a few years ago, there wasn't even a bookstore. But get a little dejected about that every so often. I step out and I go, and I realize that the closest factory is 3,000 miles away. You know, and all that air that is polluted has to come over 3,000 miles of what do you call it? Ionic air. You know, negative ions all over the place. Pick it up. The air is great. So I guess I have to give up the external culture and find it in myself and keep breathing the external air. Looking out at the hotel the other night at sunset, the sun's, you know, coming down, you can see this yellow ball of light, and I said to myself, what's this purple and green and gray and yellow and red colors in the sky? They're big. It looked like someone had put a dome over the city of Chicago. And I'm sure you've seen it if you've been on top of a building or sometimes coming into a big city. That's good karma. That is the function, the result of, quote, civilization, which I'm not opposed to. But either you got to build a real tall Babel's tower to get above it, or never land, you know, keep flying around, you know, or somehow escape it. In your head, I'm saying, obviously. I hope you understand that. Gratefulness is an awareness of two things. One, that you're in the garden of God, and in the garden of God is everything. And two, you ready? You're worthy to have it, as unworthy as you are. I remember so clearly one day going through this battle in my head of gratefulness. This is decades ago. And in a sense, I said, Kriya, do you want to be enlightened? Can I use that word? And my little hand went up, okay. And I said, Kriya, do you think you're worth it? You know, you think you're worthy of it? Whoops, the hand went back down. And I said, isn't that interesting? And very openly, I start crying, upset, emotional. Then my yoga kicked in and said, what is this? There was a little cuss word in between. What the heavens is this, you know? I centered myself again and I said, do I want to be enlightened? The hand goes up. And I said, do you deserve to be enlightened? Do you think you deserve to be? The hand went down, and immediately the yoga kicked in and said, well, I may not be worthy, but I still want it. Can we play that game for a minute? Can you think, if you want to play? Think of something you really would like to be grateful for. Okay? Think of something you really like that you can say, wow, I am really grateful for that. Okay? Now, change your thinking and think of something you already have that you're grateful. Okay? Now send that to your best enemy or your worst enemy. Can you do that? Can you open the channel? Okay? Now come back to the thing you really would be grateful for. And then symbolically raise your hand. And then say to yourself, do I feel I'm worthy of it? And if you say yes, you'll get it. If you say no, then just say to yourself, I may not be worthy, but I really want it. And it'll come to you. Namaste Ji.